he was Cuban, and his ancestry was mother black from Africa, father white from Spain. He was about 4 or 5 years older than I was, but you know, he's so charming. I fell in love with him, and in the summertime, when I came to New York, I was able to see him, and then after that I would go back to school. But somehow he managed to sort of convince me that we could, you know, be very happy together. And at that time, honestly, I was 23, going on about 15, or maybe 13 in terms of life experience. So, and I was totally smitten by him. And he was an excellent dancer, which I love to dance, and just basically very charming. I made up my mind that I was going to marry him, much to my parents' dismay, displeasure, disapproval. They couldn't understand what I was doing, and you know, nothing. And they were living in Japan at that time, and so they would be sending these urgent telegrams. I don't know if you remember, in those days you would say, it would sound something like, "Do not do this, stop. We did not raise you to do this, stop. Please think, who is his family, stop." Although I had a lot of pain over this decision of going against my parents' wishes, ultimately I just felt like that I wanted to do this. And so I said, "I am so sorry to break your heart, but I am going to do this." Whereupon, having no other choice, I think they just felt they couldn't say anything more, except they said, "Then, if you marry this man, you are no longer a part of this family." After 10 years of this really unsuccessful marriage in a way, the only successes are the 2 boys that came, our sons, who came out of this marriage. And for them, actually, I would do it all over again, despite all the difficulties. So when I finally did end the marriage after 10 years, I was able to become closer to my parents. From 1963 to 73 was when I just saw no more future, you know, in staying together. So I basically took my 2 little boys and walked out from a beautifully furnished apartment with everything that one could want to have. I walked out with just the clothes on our backs and wearing flip-flops. It was in the middle of the summer, and not even aware that I had only about $4 in my pocket. I just thought, this is it. I'm doing it. So I just walked out, and I did not go back. My two little boys were not with me at the very beginning, but I have no record, no recollection of what I did or where I was for 2 days. Because of the fact that during even my married life, I was working a full-time job. I think actually I was doing a full-time job and something part-time. My life was so full, I had no time to make any friends, except maybe 2 or 3 people I knew in the city. And so when I walked out, I really had no place to go, no place. I had a job, and it was only after about the 2nd or 3rd day of kind of wandering around the city by myself that I called my boss, and she was like, "Where have you been? We've been trying to find you." She took me into her home in Queens. She said, you guys come and live with us. Her mother was there, her mother-in-law, her husband, little girl, and they had a nanny. So she said, "This is ideal. And then you and I will drive to work together in the morning." We were working up in Harlem. And so I stayed with her for a few days, and we just kept coming into the city for whatever I could find in terms of housing for myself. It's impossible. Everything that I could afford was a dump, just no place that a person, but much less, anyone with children could live. And then what I liked, I could not afford. It just seems like there has always been an angel over my shoulder, even before I even knew that there were certain things that I needed. It would just be there for me. So I was riding on the bus one day, and it turned out to be a mother from the same school that Carlos was going to, Manhattan Country School. And she said, "So how are things?" And I said, "Well, I'm looking to find an apartment. It's so hard." And she says, "Well, why don't you check into the building that I just moved into? There is a waiting list, but you put your name down and do that." Long story short, this is the place. But I had nothing in terms of even a spoon or a fork. So when we moved into this apartment, empty, it was cavernous. So Carlos and Chris would run around to the back and say, "Mommy, where are you?" And their voices would echo. And I'd say, "I'm here." And it was just like we were in seventh heaven. And over the years, though, I've collected so many things. In the course of working a full-time job, coming home, taking care of my two kids, I tried to get someone to help me with taking care of the kids, but that cost too much money, so I had to rely on them, and they were basically latchkey kids, as we used to call them back then. Fortunately for us, their school was just across the park from here. They would come home, let themselves in, get a glass of milk, a cookie or something, until I came home. And so I thought, they're okay, they can handle this. So the next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to get an MBA. So again, I signed up and got into NYU, an MBA program. I wanted to specialize in human resource management. Along the way, there's tons of reading to do, tons of writing to do, so many things that are not in the classroom. Sitting in the classroom is a luxury. It's afterwards, and you have to labor through all this. And we were in this living in this apartment, and my bedroom was the last one down the hallway. And I would come home after class and quickly feed the boys some dinner, and then I'd say, "Okay, now you guys go wash up, and Mommy has to go do her homework." So I would close the door, and I would say, "Now don't bother me until it's time for your bed," around 9 o'clock. And I'd be there trying to concentrate on my reading, and I would hear the two of them at the door. They don't dare to open the door, but the little one, who was like around 4 or 5 years old at the time, was saying, "I want to see Mommy. I want to see Mom." And then Carlos would say, "No, Chris, Mommy's doing her homework. You can't go in there. I want to see Mommy. I want to see Mommy." And I could hear the door, jiggling. And then Carlos would say, "No, don't go there. Don't go there. She has to study. She has to study. Here, listen. I'll play checkers with you." And then, okay. And then I hear them disappear down the hallway. After like a few days of that, it just dawned on me that, first of all, I couldn't focus for the rest of that night. Just, what am I doing to them? What am I trying to do here? But I felt like the whole world is moving ahead fast, and I need a degree. I need an advanced degree. So I only lasted 1 semester. And I was part of a study team. It was a wonderful group of like 3 guys and me. And our project got an A+. And then after that, I said, "Okay, I've got to step out." It was just too much of a burden to put on Carlos and Chris. I was working out in Jamaica, Queens, which is a long distance from here, long train ride. And often, as soon as I got into my office and settled in, there would be a phone call, like around 9:30 in the morning or 10 o'clock. and it would be someone from the school, another parent who had seen my boys on the crosstown bus, calling just to say, I don't know if you know how well the boys are taking care of each other. I just want to tell you that this would be a typical call. Just wanted you to know that everything is really great with your boys, and they are so wonderful to each other. I saw them this morning, and as we were nearing our stop, Carlos, as usual, started buttoning up Chris's jacket and getting the gloves out of his pocket and helping him put finger in there, and then hop down from the seat and, help him off the bus, and then he'd hold his hand as they crossed, 96th Street to the north side of the street where the school is, and they are they're totally self-sufficient, and you've done a good job, and they're just so wonderful to each other. I want you to have a good day.